Hello and welcome to this video, which is going to be all about the astrology of August. So I normally do these on a podcast, which I'm still going to do, but I thought why not do a video talking about it, sharing it on YouTube, seeing how this goes. I always get the intuitive call to do YouTube and I don't listen all the time, so we're finally going to be listening to it. So to get started, the astrology of August is a little bit, I'm going to use the word like slower, because we have a Mercury retrograde, and then in addition to what I'm most excited about is the lunar cycle has a way of, when we have like the 13 lunations, sometimes it does this weird switch thing. I don't really know how to explain it. It does this weird switch thing where it'll have a double new moon in a sign or a double full moon in a sign, depending on the year. And then we end up having our full moons come before our new moons when with the corresponding signs. Hopefully I'm explaining this okay. And that's what's been happening, I feel like, for the last year, except for now in August, things are going back to the way they, like, I'm gonna do air quotes here, but they should be, with our new moon happening first and then our full moon coming 2 weeks later with like the opposite signs. And so I'm really excited for that, because that will continue on now for the rest of the year until it does something weird again. But this year we had the 2 full moons in Capricorn, which that's what now switched the cycle to now be new moon to full moon. And if you know anything about the lunar cycle and like the phases, you have to start with the new moon, you do the intentions first, and then so I'm just really excited for the month of August because it's finally back to being the new moon, full moon. So anyway, but that's the first thing I'm going to talk about is the new moon in Leo on August 4th. So I have my laptop in front of me because I have to see the charts. I have no idea how to actually put the chart on the video. If I can figure that out and you can see the chart too, that would be cool if I can do that in post. So the chart of the new moon in Leo, the new moon is going to be at 12 degrees, and Venus is also in Leo at the 29th degree, so we have a nice stellium there. Stellium is 3 or more planets in the same sign. We have the new moon, so the sun and moon in Leo, sextiling Mars in Gemini and Jupiter in Gemini. So that's like a fun, like playful energy, air and fire. So like very good energy happening there. And then Venus in Leo is squaring Uranus. So it just means like potential surprises or changes with a relationship, or with like surprise money coming through. Wouldn't that just be wonderful for everybody? And it's also very important to note where Leo is in your chart. So seeing what house Leo is in, yeah, that will give you the key to like where you want to set this intention. Okay. Mercury is not retrograde yet when this moon happens, and then there's honestly not a lot of like red lines. Like I look at this and I'm like, oh, I mean, it's what's happening is I use hand motions a lot. Saturn and Jupiter are getting ready to form like a pretty tight square, but it's not like super tight, so there might be that restriction of like responsibilities versus expansion. But this new moon honestly looks very nice and fun and lighthearted, which is the vibe of Leo. So like putting yourself out there. I'm choosing to post this in August. This is very much sort of that energy of putting yourself out there, being bold or courageous with things. How can you be creative and different things like that? Yeah, it's not like too crazy of a chart. And like the ruler of the moon in Leo is the sun in Leo, and it's just okay. I will jump to the next thing, which is Venus entering Virgo on the same day. So this happens after the new moon like is at its exact degree, and then like later in the day Venus is going to enter Virgo. So Venus in Virgo is an interesting energy because Venus is our planet of love, beauty, abundance, pleasurable things, and Virgo can have a really bad rap for being an extremely critical sign. I love Virgo energy. I am filming this when the moon is in Virgo. I really like Virgo energy. I think it's really great. Yeah, it's a sign that's all about like service and devotion and the details, but like looking at things from a perspective of like, I'm here to help. Like, look at all these things that need to get done. Oh my goodness, like, how can I be of assistance? Like, that's how I really like to look at it. But if you are tapping into a negative side of Virgo or looking at it from a different perspective, it can be one of the most perfectionistic, critical signs. Like, you're doing it wrong. This isn't the right way. This is not how you're supposed to be doing it. I should have done better. I need to change how this is being done so it's more efficient, like all that type of thing. So you have to check your chart to see what house Virgo is. And there should be like a nice kind of energy kind of going through that area of your chart where it's like a pleasurable excitement, but you have to watch for like the bad side, that critic coming through. And it's like with Virgos, if you know any Virgos in your life, they are so hard on themselves. They are their own worst enemies sometimes. So remembering not to tap into that, but more so like, maybe I want to deep clean the house, and maybe I want to like do a detox for my body, or maybe I want to just really do like meal prep and get organized in a certain way, like purge the closet, things like that can feel more like productive in a healthy way, like mindfully, as opposed to like ripping yourself apart. So we have the next day after Mercury retrograde starting, and it will be in the sign of Virgo, and then on August 14th it will enter Leo. So the planet will go like, it starts in Virgo and then it'll go back a certain amount of degrees, and then I'll just continue talking about it. It goes direct on August 28th, so basically August 5th to 28th, so all of August, Mercury retrograde. It is the time to slow the F down, right? And it'll be, I think it's like Virgo like 4 or 5 degrees until Leo 21 degrees. So I say this so you can check your chart. You can see where, again, the houses of Leo and Virgo are. You can check to see those degrees if you have any planets in there. And Mercury's just going to kind of pass it 1, 2, it does it the 3 times. And it just brings in an opportunity of reflection. So I always say with Mercury retrogrades, they're not a time to fear. I always say retrogrades can be like blessings in disguise, because they bring in that invitation for you to slow down and stop and really reflect on what you're doing. And then when the retrograde is over, to then take necessary action and pivots to what it is you like need to be doing. So yeah, the Virgo, the first little like 8 days with Virgo is really going to be that like assessing efficiency, or like how you plan and schedule your time, things like that really might come up. Then with Leo, I feel like it could really reflect on like, are you having fun? Are you playing? Are you tapping into inner child fun stuff, like really creative things? Like, are you making time for those things? And the summer is really the perfect time to do that, right? So that's how I think it'll come up there. So your key dates are, it starts August 5th, goes direct August 28th, midway through on August 14th, it switches signs. So you might just feel like the theme kind of switch for you. Next, I'm going to talk about the full moon in Aquarius now, which is on August 19th. Now, when I pulled this chart up to have ready, it is an interesting looking chart. Oh my goodness. A lot of red lines, which I never, when I teach aspects to students, I'm like, don't worry, red lines, whatever. But when it's like the energy of the day, there's like a lot of restriction. Okay, see. So there's 2, whenever I do these, I like look intuitively and I just kind of say what comes up. So essentially, we have 2 T-squares here. So, and then other than these 2 T-squares, there's the moon, the full moon Aquarius, that's at 27 degrees. I always like to say the degrees. It is, the moon itself is sextiling Mars and Gemini. And then there is a little talent triangle there, but there are these 2 really tight T-squares. So I think T-squares is a really cool aspect shape. So it's like 2 sides are the same, one side is longer, red triangle in the chart. You may have it in your chart or not, like in your actual natal chart. I have one in mine. And when you have a T-square, it creates, I don't want to do like a weird symbol here. It creates essentially, if we think of a ball bouncing in like a shape of a triangle, and it has like nowhere to escape. So we always say like the point of the triangle, of the two shorter lines, you go to the other direction, and there are these release points to release this tension, because everything is essentially freaking out, like the elements are freaking out, but it's all the same modality. Okay, so we have a mutable T-square, which is what I live with, so this will be an interesting day. And there's also a fixed T-square, which is going to feel a little bit harder. And so the mutable signs like the change, the fixed signs like the consistency. That's the easiest way to explain it. So we have Mars and Jupiter in Gemini essentially conjunct, both squaring Venus in Virgo and Saturn in Pisces, and then Saturn and Venus are opposing. That's special. So we have like the release point of Sagittarius, gaining a new perspective, trying something different, running away potentially from a situation. You might feel the need to do that, or like, I want to book a trip. I wouldn't really advise to do that. It's not like a great a long-term plan, but it's like short-term. How can I like learn something new to change my perspective, or ask a question to broaden my viewpoint, because it might be like very narrow. So I mean, Jupiter and Gemini squaring Venus and Virgo, so tension with like how you want to expand, or things that will bring you joy. And then Saturn's kind of talking to everybody, like restricting, responsibility first, like all of that. So there's that T-square. The other T-square is fixed, so it's like you have three different elements trying to take control, which is the Sun in Leo at 27 opposing the Moon in Aquarius at 27, which is the full moon opposition line. So it's like, how can I include everybody but be different at the same time, and being part of a group but still remain in my individuality, and like express myself but still like be authentic to myself, but collectively help and move society forward, and help people. And that's the Leo Aquarius access point. And then they are having a conversation with the squaring with 20, this is an exact T-square at 27 degrees, 27 degrees Uranus and Taurus, which is kind of telling them both to do something different. That's Uranus, but then Taurus would come at them and say like, be traditional. So it's a really interesting thing we've been dealing with since 2019 with Uranus and Taurus. But yeah, that's an exact T-square. Oh my goodness. And again, checking to see if you have any of these numbers that I've said, seeing if you have those in your chart. But yeah, again, with T-squares, it just feels like you're being pulled in these directions, and you're like, how do I do this? You go to the other side, and the release point for this would be Scorpio. So with a fixed T-square, and Scorpio is not a part of it, we go to Scorpio and we dive deep, we ask questions, we try to get to the bottom of things, we investigate, we maybe look at the psychology of it, we act like an internet sleuth to kind of figure out and be that detective. And then depending on what house is in your chart, you might be a detective for yourself, trying to figure something out, helping someone else out, or just in general trying to like figure something out and get to the bottom of it. So that full moon will be quite interesting, even on a collective level. I always, whenever I do these, I like to do these forecasts to give you, who's listening and watching this, insight into how you can apply this to your own chart. Like with the full moon and areas being illuminated, how can you celebrate yourself in that axis on your chart? But that's what I like these things to be for. And it's also just good to mark down different dates of the different energies and stuff. But wow, the full moon in Aquarius on August 19th collectively seems like it'll be like something will happen in the world. And it's never anything to like scare when people talk about astrology, but it's like something might happen, or like, I don't know, we the people need to like push back on things. I'm really big in the hand motions right now. So I'm a Gemini, so I talk with my hands quite a bit. So the second last thing is Sun entering Virgo. So when the Sun enters a sign, it's the season, it's Virgo season. So August 22nd. I don't know the exact time it starts. It might start early in the day, mid, or later in the day. But it's Virgo season. It'll last until September 22nd. You always have to look, the dates will change every year for the zodiac seasons when the Sun enters. So yeah, so essentially Virgo season, again, I love Virgo season. You might not like it, but it's the big back to school energy. So how can you get prepared for like September and coming up for seasons, because it has that like buzziness of, because it's ruled by Mercury, of feeling like a little bit busy, or busier, like you have a lot of stuff to get done because it's like the back to school energy, and you want to get your life in order and get everything ready and organized. And that's when the sun enters Virgo at the end of August, and then September you're like, okay, I got a lot of stuff to get done. I remember as a kid I would always I'm just that type of person. I'd get all like my binders ready, labeled for my school classes. I'd have my nice pencil case ready, color code everything. And I bring that into adulthood with having like color coded email and calendar and everything, and just the organization. We love the organization over here. Yeah, but always that downside of Virgo where it's like you can organize it in a way that makes sense for you and to the best of your ability, but there's no perfect way to do it. So that's a big thing there. And I say because it's Mercury ruled, practicing more mindfulness, more self-compassion, and things like that in Virgo season. And then the last thing I have to talk about is Venus entering Libra on August 29th. So we have 2 Venus changes in the month, which feels fast, but that's just a cycle of the planet. So Venus entering Libra is a nice energy because Venus, compared to what I said at the beginning of the video, Venus and Virgo, Venus entering Libra is like a nicer energy. It's softer because Libra is ruled by Venus. So it's in its nice home spot here. And so it'll just feel extra good. And again, checking to see which house Libra is for you. It's going to bring in some like niceness and coziness. Libra is that thing where it's like balance, style, fashion, art, but also like justice and fairness, balancing the scales, relationship focus. So Libra loves to be in relationship, and Venus can rule different things we look for in relationships. It's also, I like to say, we can never forget about the relationship with ourselves, and using your Venus placement in your chart for how you want to practice self-care and self-love. So maybe looking to that with this transit of Venus and Libra, of how can you practice self-care and self-love in a way that feels the most pleasurable to you, or the most like you, to balance that out with how much time you spend with other people and how much you take care of other people or think about other people. And it's like, no, you have to balance that out with you, because a relationship cannot exist like with 2 people if the one person isn't present in it or taking care of themselves or being authentically them. Then it's not like real. I think of one person I know who has a lot of 7th house placements, and I just want to like shake them sometimes, because I'm like, you can't let another person dictate your happiness, or really dictate anything. Like, it starts with the self, and Libra is the sign that rules the other, but there's no like other without the self, right? And so that would probably be the big message there, and things might come up around that. But you might just feel the need to maybe like reach out to people you haven't connected with in a while or seen, and like, oh, I need to check in with them. And it's very much, Libra is the one-to-one connections you have, so not like a group of friends, but the people you actually go and do things with, like just you and them. Like, you can have a conversation with them, not like a big group of people, because there are always people that you never just spend time with, you and them. You only see them when it's like around other people. So Libra, just that's more Aquarius, and so Libra is like those people, your best friends, your partner, yeah, things like that. So that's all I have for the August 2024 astrology forecast. I'd love to know if you have any like comments or things that came up while you were listening to this, or like where some of these transits are going to be happening in your chart. I'd love to know in the comments. And yeah, this was fun to do, and my goal is to continue to do these every month in addition to the podcast. I'll have all my links below for booking a reading if you want one, to see how this energy is actually implemented in your chart. If you don't know how to like look at like find the houses that things are happening and everything, readings are always available. And I also have a astrology school that I run twice a year to teach this stuff, because my goal is to empower you with the information so you have it yourself, so you're not dependent on seeking out different people, but it's like you've learned it from someone and then you have it yourself, right? Because that self-awareness. That's everything. Check the oh my gosh, what's it called? The description box for like all the details and everything. And I will see you next month for the September forecast.